John's Gospel, chapters 13 to 20, is divided into what we call the book of glory. Now, the word glory translated in the New Testament means reputation. So God's glory or God's reputation is revealed through His person and the person of Jesus Christ. Now, in John's Gospel, glory is a very important theme, and it is used in different contexts and different verses. But interestingly, John writes in this book of glory about Jesus washing the disciples' feet, His betrayal, His arrest, His trial, His crucifixion, His death, and then the post-resurrection appearances. So, Jesus was actually preparing His disciples for a life without His physical presence. And it is very important to note that here in the book of glory, John's account of the crucifixion of Jesus is not presented as one who suffers, but as one who is exalted. And we read this in John 12 verses 32 and 34, a little before the book of glory starts. So, it is in His moment of glorification that Jesus is exalted. So this is a very important point that we should make a note of when we study the book of glory. So Jesus is not presented as one who suffers, but He is presented as one who is exalted through all the narratives in the book of glory, which we just saw. So in this book of glory, there is the longest discourse of Jesus with His disciples. That is from chapters 14 to 17, which is also famously known as the farewell discourse. Jesus is warning His disciples of the world's continuous hostility and enmity against them for following Christ. But He also writes about Jesus' promise to send the Paraclete to His disciples. Paraclete, of course, is a special term that John uses for Jesus' continuous presence in His disciples. So, moving on, we also read about the high priestly prayer in chapter 17. And then the final chapters of the book of glory include Jesus' trial, His crucifixion, and His resurrection. But John does not include the narrative of the Lord's Supper. And very importantly, John also mentions that the crucifixion happens on the day of the preparation for the Passover, which is before the actual day of the Passover. Now finally, the book of glory ends with the women and the disciples finding the tomb empty, and then Jesus appearing to them, and then finally doubting Thomas's narrative. So John's Gospel, as we study this book of glory, is a remarkable gospel because the way Jesus is presented as an exalted one in His moment of glorification is something to be taken note of. So when we hear the word glory, we tend to understand it as something which does not involve these things mentioned in the narratives in the book of glory. But John clearly reveals to us the exalted position of Jesus in his glory. May God bless this study for us. Amen.